There is a moment, and most of you watching this have already had it, where something shifts. It's not a dramatic moment. Nobody slams a door. Nothing explodes. It's quieter than that. It's the moment in a meeting where you realize you don't care anymore. The moment you stop defending the company in conversations with your partner. The moment you do the math on your commute cost and understand, for the first time, clearly, exactly what this job is actually paying you after expenses. That moment is not weakness. That moment is data. Research shows that most resignation decisions happen 6 to 12 months before the actual departure. The letter you haven't written yet, the conversation you haven't had, the move you haven't made, you may have already decided. You're just waiting for permission. Or a plan. This is the plan. File 05 was about becoming the architect, designing your indispensability in an organization worth staying in. File 06 is for when the organization is not worth staying in. When the architect strategy isn't enough. When the company can't be fixed, the ceiling is real, the environment is toxic, and the move is out. This is what the talent. Welcome to File 06. The exit. Let's make sure you leave with everything you're owed. Here is the context nobody is putting together for you. In 2022, 4.5 million Americans quit their jobs in a single month. The Great Resignation. Workers had leverage and they used it, moving for better pay, better conditions, better anything. Then the market tightened. The freeze set in. And most people stopped moving, not because things got better, but because they got scared. Voluntary turnover dropped from 24.7% in 2022 to 13.5% in 2025. The 401k loan trap. The debt anchor. The frozen market with nowhere obvious to go. But here's what's happening right now, in 2026, that the headlines are missing: the people who stayed, who swallowed their dissatisfaction, who kept their heads down, who told themselves to wait, they are running out of patience. What is building in 2026 is different. Researchers are calling it revenge quitting, and that framing is wrong. Because the people who are leaving strategically in 2026 are not doing it out of anger. They are doing it out of calculation. They postponed. They endured. They built their plan. And now, with receipts, they are leaving on their terms. The question is not whether you should leave. The question is, do you know how to leave in a way that protects your finances, your reputation, and your future? Because most people don't. Not every exit is the same. The strategy that protects you depends entirely on which situation you are actually in. So before we talk about how to leave, I need you to correctly identify where you are. Situation 1, the ceiling is real. You have done the work. You've had the conversations. You've used the promotion templates from File 02. You've given them a timeline, criteria, and a business case. And the answer, stated or unstated, is there is no path here. The ceiling is structural, political, or permanent. The architect strategy can buy you time, but it cannot build a door where there isn't one. When the ceiling is confirmed, not suspected, confirmed, the exit is the career move. Situation 2, the environment has become toxic. Toxic workplace culture is now 10 times more predictive of employee attrition than compensation. 10 times. In 2025, toxic culture was the #1 reason people left their jobs, cited by 26.8% of departing employees, ahead of poor pay, ahead of bad management. If you are working somewhere that is damaging your health, your confidence, or your sense of professional identity, that is not a temporary problem to manage. That is a structural situation that requires a structural response. The exit. Situation 3, the restructure signal is clear. We covered this in File 04 and File 05. The signals your role is being delayed. Your skip level has gone quiet. Your projects are being redistributed. The list is being made and you can feel which side you're on. In this situation, the most expensive mistake you can make is waiting to be terminated. Because termination after a PIP or a performance conversation changes your narrative, your severance leverage, and your timeline, all for the worse. The people who survived the restructure with the most intact are the ones who saw it coming and moved first, while they still had leverage. Situation 4: a better offer exists. This one is simple and most people still get it wrong. An offer from another company is not just a job. It is a negotiating instrument. It is leverage against your current employer, for a raise, for a title, for a remote exception, or for a negotiated exit package. Most people treat an external offer as a binary, take it or reject it. The architect treats it as a third option, use it. Whether you leave or stay, the external offer changes the terms of your current situation, if you know how to deploy it. Here are the 4 rules that determine whether you leave with financial protection or leave empty-handed. Rule 1: never resign without a plan. Never. Resigning abruptly, even from a toxic situation, even with another offer in hand, is one of the most expensive mistakes in the exit playbook. The moment you resign, your leverage disappears. The company no longer needs you. Employment attorneys are explicit about this. The best time to negotiate your exit is while you are still employed. Once you're terminated, leverage drops significantly. Before you write the letter, before you have the conversation, before you give notice, you need to know exactly what you want to take with you. Severance. Benefits continuation. Equity vesting. Reference language. Non-compete scope. These are all negotiable. None of them are negotiable after you've already resigned. Rule 2: understand what constructive dismissal actually means. Here is the piece of legal intelligence that most employees never learn until it's too late. If your working conditions have become genuinely untenable, if you've been demoted without cause, if your responsibilities have been stripped, if you've experienced documented harassment that HR failed to address, if you've been targeted with an RTO mandate selectively applied, you may have grounds for what the law calls constructive dismissal. A constructive dismissal is when conditions become so intolerable that a reasonable person would have no real choice but to resign. And legally, in many states, a constructive dismissal can be treated as termination, which means severance, which means unemployment eligibility, which means a release of claims negotiation with real leverage. This is not a situation to navigate without legal counsel. If your employer is making your job impossible while technically not firing you, they may be engineering your resignation to avoid the cost of letting you go. Recognizing that move is the first step to not letting it work. Rule 3: the negotiated exit is a real strategy, and most people have never heard of it. A negotiated exit, sometimes called a structured separation, is when you initiate the conversation about leaving before the company does. You go to HR or senior leadership and you say, in essence, this relationship isn't working for either of us. Here is what a clean, professional, mutually beneficial separation looks like. In exchange for your cooperation, for a smooth knowledge transfer, for not filing a complaint, for signing a non-disparagement agreement, for leaving professionally and quietly, the company provides severance. Benefits continuation. Equity acceleration. A written reference. This strategy works because companies have 2 primary reasons to pay severance: protecting legal liability and protecting their reputation. Both of those motivations exist whether you resign or they terminate you, if you frame the conversation correctly. Employment attorneys report that executives can realistically negotiate 4 to 6 months of pay this way, plus benefits and equity, even when they are the ones initiating the departure. Rule 4. The reference is a negotiated asset, not a given. Most people treat a professional reference as something they either get or don't get based on how much their manager liked them. That framing is wrong and it costs people opportunities. A reference is a negotiated term of your exit. I will leave professionally and cooperate fully with knowledge transfer. In return, I need a written letter of recommendation and confirmation that your official reference response will confirm my dates, title, and that I am eligible for rehire. This is a standard exchange. HR understands it. They agree to it regularly. But only when it's asked for explicitly, preferably in writing, as part of the exit agreement. Before any exit conversation, before any resignation letter, before any announcement of any kind, run this checklist. In order. Every item. Item 1. Clear your financial runway. Calculate exactly how many months you can operate without income. This is not a vague estimate. It is a specific number. 90 days is the minimum viable runway for a strategic job search in a frozen market. If you don't have it, delay the exit until you do, or execute the negotiated exit to fund the runway with severance. Item 2. Secure your external evidence. Save every email, performance review, commendation, and document that supports your professional narrative to your personal accounts on your personal devices. Before you give any signal that you're leaving. The moment you give notice, your access to company systems may end immediately. Some companies cut access the same day. You will not be given time to gather your files. Item 3. Know your equity position exactly. What vests, when, and what happens to unvested grants upon separation. Equity vesting timelines are negotiable in an exit conversation, but only if you know the numbers before you sit down. If you don't know your cliff dates and vesting schedules, you are negotiating blind. Item 4. Research your company's actual severance history. Not the policy document, which is often vague, but what people actually received. Talk to former colleagues who left voluntarily. Companies are legally expected to be consistent in how they apply severance. What others received sets the floor for what you can negotiate. Item 5. Get the reference conversation done before the exit conversation. Identify the 2 or 3 people whose endorsement matters most to your next chapter. Item 6. Prepare your narrative before anyone asks. How you explain leaving is a professional asset. The answer is not "I was miserable." The answer is, "I identified the ceiling in my current role and made a strategic decision to move toward specific opportunity. The experience at company gave me specific skills and outcomes, and I'm proud of what I built there." You control the story. But only if you write it before you leave. Item 7. Never sign the first exit agreement. You have 21 days to review a severance agreement. If you are over 40, you have 45 days under the ADEA. Use every day. Consult an employment attorney if need be. Here is what the Great Contraction wants you to believe, that leaving is losing. That staying, enduring, complying, surviving, is the only option. It's not. The difference between the people who leave the contraction positioned and the people who leave devastated is not talent. It is not performance. It is preparation. It is knowing, before the meeting, before the letter, before the announcement, exactly what you are owed, and exactly how to ask for it. You are owed your financial runway, your equity, your reference, your narrative, your timeline. None of those things are given to you. They are negotiated. And the negotiation starts before you give notice, not after. The exit is not the end of the story. It is the beginning of the next one. And the next chapter, whether that's a better employer, a fractional practice, or a portfolio career built on your own terms, starts with leaving this one correctly. The series continues. File 07 is coming, the rebuild. How to construct your next chapter in a contracting economy where the old rules no longer apply. This is what the talent. The great contraction is real. The exit is a strategy. The move, as always, is yours.